guys, today's video is the US living 4 things I honestly thought would be a bigger deal.
About living in America.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
US
I'm guessing so. US living makes sense.
Yeah,
interesting. So we searched this video, and as always with the Lost in the Pond video, if we see a title which we don't think we've done before, we do a little Google search, a YouTube search. Have we done it? I had done it 2 years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember this video. You definitely haven't seen it.
Nope.
So it's gonna be interesting.
Should be a good one because I feel like this is old school Lawrence too.
Yeah,
like
old school
Lawrence.
Because I don't even know if it was new 2 years ago. It could have been old school 2 years ago as well.
Yeah, you just reacted to it 2 years ago.
Which is mad with finding videos that I reacted to 2 years ago. That's quite mad, isn't it?
It's been a long time on this channel.
It has been a long time on this channel. Smash the like button if you appreciate the content and that subscribe button. The more you subscribe, the more you like on this specific video, the more we know you want to see. So what is the like goal?
3,000.
3,000? We've only been getting 1,000 recently.
Yeah, well, there's
smash that like button. You guys have been slacking because we haven't been asking, so we're going to have to ask, aren't we?
Yeah, we did this last time. We started asking and they started providing.
So smash that like button. We hate to ask, but would appreciate it. Check out Patreon as well. Like I said, I've been doing it for ages. Really, really helps us out, Patreon, doesn't it? And maybe it'll be able to become a full-time or something like that in the future. You never know.
If you could do that, it'd be great because I'm having a nice time off.
Yeah, you can't wait for the time off with a baby.
So
and
if you could just make that permanent for me, I think I'd be very grateful.
Definitely. I'm Lily's pregnant. We're having a baby, so it honestly does really help.
Yeah, so just subscribe as well while you're here.
Yeah, subscribe. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's the title?
4 things I honestly thought would be a bigger deal living in America. What we got?
What we got? You got to do it right.
I thought this was going to be a big deal, right? You know the joke, why did the chicken cross the road? Well, he didn't because he was too much of a chicken.
Well, how's that?
Wow. I mean, good
Hello,
point.
I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And one of those memos pertains to things I thought were going to be a big deal before I moved to America, but turned out not to be. Turns out
It
that
didn't roll off the
brevity
tongue.
wasn't
No,
one
it
of those
didn't.
things. But before moving to the United States, or indeed any country, you sort of paint a picture right here, not literally, that'd be really messy, of what that country is like.
Okay.
Whether you've seen something in the movies, or read rumours in the newspapers, or fell for the lies of somebody called Chad on AOL Instant Messenger in 1998.
Who's
That
Chad?
picture that you painted up here goes from being a Bob Ross to a Grant Wood. I have no idea what that means. But how can we believe the stories that we hear about the United States of America? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to move there. I did that in 2008
You took permission,
while I was
literally.
excited to move to America. There were certain things that I was worried about that in hindsight make me look really stupid. And so if
Okay.
you're British or from another country entirely and you're thinking of moving to the United States once it's safe to do so, then this video is for you and also for Americans that want to laugh at me. And so without further ado, here are 4 things that I figured would be a much bigger deal once I moved to America.
Okay.
Tornadoes.
Tornadoes,
Ooh.
yes, you might be thinking,
I suppose that's a good one, isn't it?
Well, we don't have them.
No, but we would assume they are a massive thing.
Yeah, but I think they are a massive thing, but they're not a big deal to to probably a lot of Americans because they happen so frequently.
I think that's a thing. Infrequently, they don't
Yeah.
happen often. I think that's a thing because you're so panicky by it. But I imagine Lawrence potentially just has never seen one, but he's lived in around Tornado Alley.
We hear all the time about America, the tornadoes,
Yeah,
but I think if you actually live there, you probably don't see them as much as what we probably think
and
we
you
see
don't
them.
think about it. But I imagine, don't get me wrong, it must be so scary just to get an alarm and all that. But we had a few people who say they get sirens and they don't take it seriously unless there's a big warning out.
Yeah.
Because it's not that big of a deal until it happens.
Yeah,
So
that happens.
That's a good first one, I guess.
once I moved to America. Tornadoes, yes, you might be thinking, what's this doing on your list, Lawrence? I mean, you yourself have talked before about how prevalent tornadoes are in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's true, no country on earth gets more F5 tornadoes than the United States. Indeed, I remember it being a relatively frequent occurrence back home that on BBC News you'd often see footage of big tornado outbreaks in the United States and the devastation it left before it. to
Yeah, it's
people's
awful to
homes
see,
and
Yeah,
innit?
livelihoods.
definitely.
This, coupled with films like Twister and that really strong documentary in which a huge tornado results in the death of a witch, I'd built up this
What?
image of a
I've never seen
tornado
that.
free-for-all. When it became clear to me that I was going to be living in the United States for a while, and particularly here in the Midwest, I just assumed that I'd see a tornado something like every 3 years, more than I see my own family. This is sounding really apocalyptic. And do you know how many tornadoes I've seen? 0, and I've been here 13 years.
good.
I've just
That's a
realised
good
that's an
one.
unlucky number, meaning that 2021 will be the year. Now,
Oh,
it's a simple
no.
fact that you will see more tornadoes if you move to the Great Plains. There are people watching this who have encountered several tornadoes in their lifetime. But if for whatever crazy reason tornadoes just aren't your thing, then some places are better to live than others. Now, while I haven't personally witnessed a tornado firsthand, I've twice had to take shelter amid a tornado warning.
That's
once
scary.
in Indiana and
Yeah.
once in this very building. And in many ways, that's just as terrifying because it's the fear of the unknown, right? Think of Jaws, except instead of a shark that you can't see, it's a tornado. And instead of the resourceful Chief Brody, you are a British man in the fetal position. Apart from that, my fear of being swept up and finding myself in a field a mile away with some equally disoriented cows hasn't yet come to fruition. But
That's
while
good.
I'm on the subject of fields, that brings us on to this.
No, oh, there's a
Growing
lot
up
of
in
them in
Britain,
there.
I was and am a big fan of football, or what the Americans would call soccer. And back in the day, I could have played for Manchester United in England if it wasn't for, reality. And while I've
skill.
never cared about the football versus soccer debate, I did have genuine concerns that America it doesn't care about this sport I call football. And that's fine. You've got your own sports. I understand that, even if I can't say
To
the
me,
same.
soccer, for in America, soccer
Yeah.
is a very. I'd say it's a children's
Yeah,
game.
it is.
Like not a children's game, like it's not for it's not for adults, but I feel like it's very much more a thing for young children,
I think it's surprising because I think
like elementary school children.
yeah, I think most Americans actually have played soccer in their life, which you wouldn't have guessed. But up until they were like maybe 9 or 10,
Yeah.
then they go into American football, baseball, and stuff like
I think
that.
it's once they get to like the high school sports, it's
More contact sports. That's when they go into that.
whereas
It is
soccer
big in
is
women's
a
though.
big thing throughout the ages in the UK.
Oh, in the UK and Europe,
From
it's the
young
main sport.
children to
That is
older
you.
children.
Like I imagine America, you probably want to be an American football player. In England and most of
Yeah.
Europe, you want to be a soccer player.
I guess when you're 6 in America, you gotta play soccer instead of American football.
And then eventually you get there. But it's massive for the women's, which
Mm.
is why the women's have had a great team for years. They had the World Cup in I want to say it was like 2000. It might be just in the 90s, which is a full stadium. Which back then you never
women
saw
as
for
well.
women's. But then you go to America, which don't watch much soccer, selling that stadium for soccer for women's. It was like what?
Yeah.
Because it is a big deal with the women's. Obviously, the men's is getting better now as well. But I would have been like Lawrence. I'd have assumed no soccer.
Yeah, except for the little kid pictures maybe. Or...
Yeah, until obviously we've learned about obviously the kids learning it.
Same about the rules. But my biggest fear with that is that I wouldn't be able to find anywhere to have a kickabout, that goalposts wouldn't exist. That I'd have to make one out of anything or anyone that I could find. My
Jackets?
wife wasn't up to it.
Jumpers.
And it turns out she didn't need to be, because the United States actually has soccer fields wherever you look.
That's good.
That's an exaggeration. You won't find them in libraries. And my initial fears that I would never play soccer again weren't realised. I mean, they were, but only because I ate too much pizza. And why is this? Well, there's a big interest in soccer at the collegiate level, an interest that seems to largely diminish by the time people are done with education, kind of like marching band. And now, from first world problems that never materialised to those of the natural world.
Ooh.
In Britain, when it comes
Yes.
to nature, nothing is really that extreme. There are no F5 tornadoes, there are no earthquakes over 8 on the Richter scale. And the country isn't known for terrifying creatures, except for Noel Edmonds. And so because of this, it was always
very
at the back
sheltered.
of my mind
Yeah.
that if I were to visit somewhere like Australia or the United States, I better watch out for spiders that have a little bit of red on them, not to be a hypocrite. And just like everybody else that was 9 years old in 1990, I was obsessed with the film Arachnophobia. In
Never
this
seen
film,
it.
a
Nope.
huge number of deadly spiders take over
a
this
spider
American
phobia though, isn't
town,
it?
and it's up to Jeff Daniels from Dumb and Dumber to save the day. And here's the thing, even after watching that film, I'm not arachnophobic. I like spiders. But given the choice, I prefer to remain socially distanced from, a black widow, a brown recluse, or
same.
that stupid
I'm not. Whoa, you hate spiders.
But I don't scream if I see them.
Okay.
I don't.
James, get rid of the spider. James.
No, I don't.
Not as much anymore. You have done in the past.
I do not.
You have done in the past.
I do not.
I remember when we were living on my mum's house, this massive spider in the
No,
backwood.
I just prefer
I've never
to
heard
not
you-
touch it.
Yeah.
But I don't scream about them.
No,
Like,
you don't-
I'm like
you're
your
not-
sister.
you're not
I would
too
take
bad.
her out. Literally.
Yeah, you're not too bad.
I'm not bad.
I don't mind a spider, but like I say, anything poisonous or
Give me
deadly,
a rat in there, I'm not touching it.
anything dangerous, I can just boom, get 'em out of the way.
Yeah.
It's not worth the
No,
risk, is it?
It's not worth it.
stupid thing at the end of Stephen King's It. But when I moved to the United States, I genuinely found myself accepting that this was about to become my reality, that every summer I'd have to do my utmost to avoid the shed. I had visions of going into my drawer and not knowing that a sneaky black widow was concealing itself in my underpants. But thankfully, this isn't quite how it turned out, because again, after 13 years of living here, I've not encountered a black widow, a brown recluse, or a hobo, and that's not me being derogatory, that is a genuine spider. Now, as with tornadoes, there are Americans watching this thinking, oh, Lawrence, you should come to my neck of the woods if you want to see a deadly spider. I don't!
Yeah,
but it is true that brown recluses, for example, are more common in the south.
Okay.
So if you live there, let me know in the comments below if you've ever
let
encountered
us know.
one and whether or not your trousers became equally brown.
How often do
we've
you
had
see these
violent
deadly
weather,
spiders?
dangerous if misunderstood arachnids. What can possibly top that, you're thinking? And it probably doesn't come anywhere near close to what you're thinking. A jaywalking infraction. It perhaps says so much about the small role that it's played in my life here that I've discussed it so little on my channel.
Okay.
But let's go back in time to when I was a wee little boy of 25. Back then, I'd visited the United States a couple of times, but I had absolutely no idea what jaywalking was. You know, it was a word that cropped up occasionally in films, but I just assumed it was a sport. And then
Until we did these videos, I had no clue what jaywalking was.
Yeah. Now I do know.
We know what it is now. Obviously, it's illegal to walk across the road without traffic lights and all that in America, isn't it?
Jesus, like free the people in the UK.
Pardon?
People's rights, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Pedestrians' rights.
Well, you literally had one proper walk in front of you
Literally,
the other day,
but it annoys me because it's not your road.
I know, and if you did hit him, it'd have been your fault as well.
I mean, I didn't, obviously.
Oh, yeah, obviously
but,
didn't.
Like, they look at you as well, like...
But he didn't even look once, he just went...
Once, and then, even when he saw me, he still just looked at me and then just...
Yeah, I'm sorry, he just went, oh, what are you doing there? We're only on the road.
Oh, only in the road, idiot.
2007, 1 year before I moved to the United States, I remember there was this news story coming out of America of a British historian who was wrestled to the ground by several police officers who had warned him against jaywalking. And it was at this moment that I realised that jaywalking meant to cross the road at a non-designated area. And the news back home was making this huge thing out of it. You know, if you go to the United States, don't jaywalk or you'll never come back. And it all seemed really extreme because back in Britain, we don't have the concept of jaywalking. So long as you look both ways to make sure there's no traffic coming.
Look
you
both
can cross
ways.
the road regardless of whether or not there's a zebra crossing or a crosswalk.
Look.
I thought this was going to be a big deal, right? You know the joke, why did the chicken cross the road? Well, he didn't because he was too much of a chicken. At least that was the case at first, and after my wife had laughed at me 17 times, I started to get the impression that I might be overthinking this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an active jaywalker. As everyone should, I follow the rules of the road. Those rules do vary by state, so next time you're feeling paranoid, Google is your friend. But in all of the years that I've lived here, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, ooh, did you see Ashley? I think she was jaywalking. Better call the cops. It's low on the list of offences is what I'm saying, and it's definitely not a sport. That's it for this episode.
I feel like it's only a bad offence if there is a car there and it's dangerous and you put in not only yourself at risk, but a driver at risk who potentially may go to jail, they might be injured as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for your mistake.
But if you look both ways, it's clear.
Just walk.
You can walk across the road. Don't break the law. No, we're not advising not to break the law. If you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to.
In the UK you are, so just look, please.
Yeah, in the UK, just look. Enjoy that?
Yeah, it was good.
It's good.
Different ones as well.
Definitely, and to be honest, I don't remember them. Maybe the jaywalking one, maybe that's why I know about the jaywalking, but I feel like we've covered it in other videos, haven't we?
Yeah.
Smash that like button, guys. Smash the subscribe button. Watch the video.
Have a fantastic day.
And we will see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.